Hello everyone, my name is Donny Winter and welcome back. I've been doing reviews of the new series, Star Trek Picard. We are now on episode 4, so the episode that premiered today is titled Absolute Candor. So I am really excited to talk about this because I think this might be my favorite episode up until this point of this show. So I will be going into elaborate details on that later, but I do want to let you know that the format of my reviews is I begin the first minute by sharing my overall impression of the episodes, and then I branch into talking about the different happenings throughout the episode with spoilers, so I will prompt you when I begin to do that. So, Absolute Candor. This episode definitely is a world-building episode, giving us an idea of the state of all things. I, in my last video, talked at length about hoping that this series would build in a little bit more context, and it does build in context. It does not disappoint, and we are introduced, it seems, to the full crew who is going to be our regular cast for the entire show, so that's really nice. So a lot of what this episode did was it just brought everyone together, and it gave everyone a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose, which is, I think, what Picard has needed so far, because he's been trying to refine his own sense of purpose in a way, as you might imagine. With that being said, I'm going to jump right into spoilers because I am really excited to talk about this. So if you do not want to listen to spoilers, I would recommend clicking away. That way you don't hear something that you don't know about yet, that you've not heard of, okay? We begin this episode with Picard on this new ship that he's on, and they are on their way to this place called Free Cloud because their mission is to find Commander Maddox, or Dr. Maddox, whatever his title is now, in order to understand what's going on with these two new androids that have revealed themselves as androids that have emotions, human expression, so on and so forth. So, at a certain point at the beginning of this episode, though, we do get a flashback, if my memory serves correctly. That is actually the beginning of the whole episode. We get this flashback to a planet called Vashti in the Beta Quadrant, which is a Romulan planet, and essentially these Romulans are either they have been located there or relocated there, or they are in the process of being relocated. It's my understanding that these Romulans who Picard interacts with have been deliberately placed on this planet as a means of escaping the supernova that was the whole purpose behind the Romulan evacuations. So, at Vashti, Picard is introduced to two characters named Zani and Elnor. Zani being, in a way, an authority figure in an organization called the Qowat Milat, which I thought was really cool. Basically, they are Romulan warrior nuns, and we need more Romulan warrior nuns, I'm just saying, because that's just such a really cool concept. Whoever thought that a Romulan warrior nun sect would exist? But anyway, the Romulan warrior nuns abide by this philosophy called Absolute Candor, which is pretty much the entire exact opposite of everything that Romulan society abides by. So Romulan society is typically very secretive, they value their privacy, in a way they're kind of xenophobic, but the Qowat Milat are the exact opposite. They value complete communication, honesty, forthrightness, and that kind of has garnered them as being outcasts, it seems, although I'm sure we'll hear more about that. What's interesting is that we're introduced to these two characters, and Zani seems to be in like this motherly position to this character Elnor, who we see at the beginning of the episode as a young boy, who is an orphan taken in by this sect of warrior nuns who are all women, so he's immediately out of place, but considering he's an orphan, he needs a home. And there's a lot of conversation about getting him placed in a home where he, can live out a normal life, in a way. And it seemed that Picard was going to assist in doing that, but that never ended up happening. In fact, a lot didn't end up happening because when the Federation decided to, axe their effort in helping Romulans, a lot of Romulans were left disappointed and angry, and we see that conflict throughout this episode because Picard ends up returning to Vashti They want to make a quick pit stop because Picard, in a way, realizes that he's getting older, he can't fight like he used to, so he needs another person to help on his quest to find Maddox and to solve this android mystery. So his first immediate person that he thinks of is Elnor, who is now grown up and desperately wanting to win Picard's approval. He seems to want to win his approval even as a kid, and that's my best guess is he probably viewed Picard as a father figure, a mentor. So that becomes a very prominent thing throughout this entire episode. So what's interesting is that the theme of this episode seems to be, and I will quote this because Zani says this in the episode, "A promise is a prison, do not make yourself a jailer," end quote. So that's the whole theme of the series so far. The Federation made a lot of promises to the Romulan people. Picard made promises to the Romulan people, and those promises were never met, which seems to be the, defining nature of the conflict happening so far in this whole series. I really enjoyed the fact that not only did we get to see more of Romulan culture so far, but we were also introduced to a lot of the conflict happening in Romulan culture at the moment. So because of the poverty and the racism, in a way, left behind by the Federation's lack of involvement, because Vashti has turned into this impoverished planet, there's a lot of ethnic and special, I guess you could say discrimination. There's a tavern on this planet called Vashti that has a sign that says no Romulans allowed, and what's really cool is that Picard at a certain point takes down the sign, throws it on the ground, and insists on going in and sitting in this tavern in order to help kind of denounce the racism or the special discrimination taking place. And in my opinion, that embodied everything that Star Trek The Next Generation was. And I think that kind of was our subtle reminder that Picard is here, Picard is not going anywhere, and he still has a code, a moral, ethical code that he abides by, and that really made me emotional. Toward the end of the episode, we are introduced to a rogue Romulan bird of prey from the original series era that someone commandeered and basically is doing some vigilante work throughout the what's left of the Romulan Empire. And there's this battle at the end, which is kind of cool, and wonderfully, at the end of this episode, while it seemed like things were turning for the worse for our heroes, another ship shows up and actually helps them, and it is 7 of 9. So literally the episode ends with 7 of 9 appearing, and she basically tells Picard, "You owe me a new ship." He recognizes her as 7 of 9, so that suggests that they are at least aware of who each other are, their reputation precedes them. We're introduced to the Fenris Rangers, who are a group of people who are essentially, policing in a way, and what's left of the Romulan Empire, saving people, so on and so forth. So of course at the end of the episode we get a little bit more world building too regarding the status of Romulan culture. We are given a reference to the Romulan Rebirth movement, which in my opinion, if I were to guess, seems to be a movement of Romulan consolidation, kind of regaining themselves after being displaced in this diaspora after this supernova. And additionally, we see a lot more happening with the Zhat Vash too, which is that, pre-Tel'Shar organization. Narek, that really dark, angsty Romulan that we see interacting with Dr. Asha, who is that other android, Daja's sister. So we see that he is experiencing some conflict too, because he's kind of falling in love with her, but he knows that she's an android, and obviously their goal is to destroy all androids, figure out where they're coming from, who created them. So there's a lot that's coming into perspective, and I'm really excited about that. Anyway, I give this episode an A. It brings everything together, and it really kind of sets our momentum for the rest of the season. It kind of gives us an idea, a more solid idea of what the conflicts are that are happening. My wonderful takeaways, like some little Easter eggs. At the beginning of the episode, Picard gives Elnor a copy of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. So that was a wonderful kind of like nod to Star Trek The Next Generation, which dealt heavily in literature, Picard's Shakespearean background, so on and so forth. We get to see another F-bomb dropped, which I thought was kind of hilarious. Although I've been seeing a lot of people getting angry over profanity being used in this series. And I'm just going to say, for those of you getting angry over that, profanity has been used in every single Star Trek series, so get over it, I guess. Like, it's the 24th century, honestly, profanity is not going to cease to exist. Anyway, share your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribe to my channel if you're a Star Trek fan. I want to know your thoughts about this episode, and hopefully we'll have a really great conversation about it. I'm just nerding out. Like, I love this show so much, and I think it's just getting better and better, and here's looking forward to the next episode next week. Anyway, have a good rest of your day. Bye.